Thank you very much. And now I'd like to welcome Reverend Constantine. Thank you, Constantine, for creating this space.
Thank you, Dr. Carlos Raimundo, and thank you to Melanie, and thanks to Mrs. Cornell, head of senior school, for that introduction. And I noticed to Deputy Mrs. Lush is online somewhere, and Mike, I did see them at the beginning, so I can't see you now, but I know you're there somewhere. So I send greetings to our Deputy Mrs. Charlotte Lush, and to everybody as well who is joining us, all the parents and all the families and staff members. I just want to begin by saying, as we do, that it takes a village to raise a child, and that's an African saying, and certainly at Lindisfarne, we take that to heart. And this is an example of what that is, that it really does take a village. It's not just something that parents do. It's not something that schools do, as much as we do a wonderful job at Lindisfarne, but we also seek opportunities to partner with others to help our young people to prosper, to flourish. Everything we can do for the flourishing and the betterment of our young people is certainly something at Lindisfarne that we subscribe to. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity. So I would like to begin with a prayer, and I know that there are people online here this evening who do not believe in God or who may have other faiths. I just want to acknowledge that prayer really is sending positive vibes or positive thoughts. That's really what prayer is. So even if you don't believe in God or believe in prayer, I'm sure you believe in sending good vibes, positive thoughts for your children, our children at Lindisfarne, for our community. So I want us to begin with a moment of silence, bring to mind all our students, all our children. They're the flowers of our motherland. There's a Chinese proverb that says, children are the flowers of our motherland. And these children here, 1787 of them, they are the flowers of our motherland. They're the flowers of our school. So we just bring them to mind as we begin this evening.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Constantine. Quite a beautiful heart, no? Embracing heart. And so in that introduction too, what I'd like to do is also to invite you to do a very quick poll that is anonymous, just that it will help us to know is a little bit more what are the topics that we are looking at here. So if you can just very quickly just do that. So this is, just while you're doing that, this is a series that we're planning to have 4 sessions, and that I'm going to share with you soon. So I'll give you a minute to fill the poll.
Yeah. So in the poll, I cannot see who did it, who answered. There, you will see that there's a lot of topics you can choose from of what brought you here today. Essentially, we want to see what are the things that really stand out for you, so that we know what to cater to you.
So these are important for us to warm up, especially for the next session. So for us to know, our heart is to be of service. So we really like to see what are the needs, and hopefully we have the ability to respond to that accordingly.
It's interesting as well because the topics, you may have come for one, but you look through the topics and you may actually think of others that you may want to know more about.
Okay, as you when you're finishing, as Melanie mentioned, we really like to respond to you. So whatever question you have or comments, and also I'd like to offer you from this week, if anyone would like to have a short chat with me as a complimentary thing, I will be very happy to be of support or just to be present if you have any comments or question after this.
Yep. I'll add a booking link for Carlos at the end, but I'll also send you an email at the end of today with some information, the recording and the link to book free chats with Carlos. So we need a few more people. We've got 16 out of 19.
If somebody doesn't want to do it, it's okay too.
That's fine. So I'll give you one more minute and then we'll close it. Okay, beautiful. I'll end the poll now. Carlos, back to you.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much again for being here. And as I mentioned before, my desire is to be of service, is to be to respond to the needs that we have. Relationships are for us the source of the major happiness and joy in our life, but also the source of our pain and sufferings and ache. And in any relationship, with children, the major issues that I'm working with relationship issues in family, in training, and as a therapist for more than 40 years, so you can see my age, is the major issues that we find is education, finances, religion or ideology, blended family issues, and dealing with in-laws. All of that are issues that are very complex in how to deal with them. And complex because there are no formulas. Nobody knows how to do it. So it's an untraveled land. And in that space, looking now about the education of our children, especially in the time of adolescence, or we're getting into, but since they're children, they're born, but especially in certain time of their life, make us. There are times that make us try our soul. We need to see what are we, how are we going to respond to that. And I'm talking as a father of 3 children, and Melanie is my daughter. So everything, if you talk to Melanie, everything Melanie says that I was a good father, believe her. If everything that she said that I was not, she's a liar. Okay? So, but for me, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to be talking with my daughter present, because in that journey, I've been able to enjoy the good moments and also to face the difficult times and to deal with that. So I'm talking from profession, because I have a background in medicine and psychiatry and psychotherapy and philosophy, but also as a father, as a colleague, as being a peer with you. So all of these tensions that we have are the ones that creates in us feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, and fear. And the question is, when we are in those places, where do we go? What do we do with that? And we are going to reflect on this in how to respond to those points. The principal point here is how are we dealing with that in our relationships. So as a topic, this topic today will be the way we relate. Next week, we're going to talk about the way we respond, how we respond to a situation, and how to learn how to respond better. The other one is one of my hobbies is neuroscience. So we're going to see what happened in the brain to understand a little bit about our brain, but also the brain of our children. And also a topic that is in search of happiness. What is happiness? And what do we do when this is tempered, when this is, we have a situation there, but how to deal with this situation to be able to reach a moments of the life we desire. So I would like to do a little bit of a theoretical presentation. Please take some notes and ask any questions after that. As I mentioned before, I want to adapt to you. In the Greek temple of Delphos, and in the Greek thinking, the major issue is to know myself. And how do I know myself? But in reality, we don't live alone. We live in relationships. There is a philosopher called Martin Buber that says that every I includes the other. So for me to know that every time I feel something, that feeling is always related to something else or someone else. And now, when I'm relating to somebody, I think that I'm relating, in that case, I put a couple, two partners, man and woman, that we believe that when I relate to someone and the person responds, we feel that the relationship happened between the other person and me. And this is true because I'm talking to the other person and we are having this conversation. But in reality, when I'm talking to someone, what happened doesn't happen between me and the other person, it happened inside our mind. So each one of us has a perception of how I perceive the other person. So I'm going to go directly to the point, and we call this, we're going to talk about a daughter, we call Emma. I don't know if we have any Emma, but we call Emma, a beautiful adolescent who is creating a little bit of tension in the parents because she's growing and she's trying to find herself, trying to grow in an Emma she would like to be, but she doesn't know how to. And the family is also working with her. So what happened in communication, and this is the topic today, how we communicate, is that the father has a picture of Emma. And in that picture of Emma, he feels her as on top of that, she's wants to be bigger than she is, and she finds her bossy. And the way he finds to deal with that is two ways. One is attacking and enforcing himself onto her, or disappearing, attacking or withdrawing. And he finds that neither of that is working. On the other hand, so this happened in the father's mind. In the mother's mind, for the other hand, it's a different picture. She feels that Emma is a girl who is trying to learn, that she is feeling secure, she needs a space because she doesn't feel very well, and her role is to protect Emma from this father who sometimes is a little bit strong or too strong for her. So put a barrier into that, or withdraw from him to be able to protect Emma. So these are two stories of the same person that these two people are perceiving. So can you imagine when they are talking to each other, having lunch, having dinner, or talking about the education, did she do the homework, didn't do the homework? The picture that both have is totally different. So it's very important for us in our conversation to be able to understand and to find a way to say, how is your perception of the situation? Because perception is what rules our life. The problem is that the brain takes perception as a truth. Not truth, the only truth. And it's very difficult to challenge. I have an article that Melanie is going to share, and for you to see a little bit more about the brain, about that. So when I have this relationship, we all have also a picture. In one in my mind, I'm fighting or the tension of trying to deal with that. The mother the same. But it's very common that when we ask people to say, how would you like to be? What is the relationship you like to have? The relationship most of the time is communication, is being together. Why? Because inside us, we are all mammals, and we have this desire of community, of being together. But very often, we cannot achieve that and create the tension. And why is this tension? It's because we judge ourselves with in our intention, but I judge the other for what they do. Does it make sense? I judge myself. So I do this because I care for you. I'm very harsh on you because I want the best for you. This is my intention. But the other person don't see our intention, sees our action. So I repeat it again. We judge ourselves on our intentions, yet we judge others for their actions. And that creates the tension. And there is a gap between what I desire and what I do. So today is for us to start thinking about to see if what I do is aligned, is closer. I'll never be able to be perfect, but it's closer with my desire. So this is what I desire. So the question, I'm going to repeat that many times, is what I do builds the person, the family, the relationship I want to do, or move it away? This is a permanent question. But on top of that, we need to know that when we are relating as a couple, in this case, this is a metaphor with a couple, you can adapt this to your personal situation. We need to know that whatever we do, we have observers, witnesses. So whatever way we are dealing with that situation, the person we're dealing with and also others in the family are witnessing that. And then it's becoming what is called a role model. So they can help us to see the way I am related to someone is feeding the best of the other person and the family, with moving away from that. And help us to see what are the role models I'm bringing into the relationship. And it's not just myself, maybe the partner or the child, but also the people who are around. We need to learn to see that whatever happens between two people is not just two people, it's a system. We need to start learning that we live in relational system. It's how I'm feeding this dynamic. So if I'm dealing here with a child that I'm concerned about, I'm loving, and I want the best for that child, it's not the child and me, it's a system. And this is what we have other ways to share how to assess that. How is the child related to me? How is the child related to anyone in the family? What are the relationship of the child in the school, with the teacher, with the support system, in that case with the chaplain? All the system is what is alive when somebody in our life. And to be able to think systemically help us to get out from ourselves and think more on a bigger picture. And there is a word in Africa that is called Ubuntu. And I really like Constantine, Reverend Constantine. He has more authority than me on that, to be able to share with us that how in Africa is this word. There is a really embodiment of what is a system thinking. Constantine, can you tell us about Ubuntu?
Yes, I can. Thanks, Carlos. Thank you for your wonderful analogies so far and the beautiful images, really quite thought-provoking. Ubuntu, a lot of our staff have heard me speak about Ubuntu many times. It's a word that I use at school here. Ubuntu comes from Southern Africa. It literally means I am because we are. That's the meaning of Ubuntu. A person is a person through other people. That's another way that we say it. It's the essence of African philosophy, the essence of African anthropology, the essence of shared humanity. The story goes, a woman from Europe who is an anthropologist went to a tribe in Southern Africa, and she wanted to test this theory about Ubuntu, and she went with a wonderful box of Belgian chocolates, really wonderful, rare Belgian chocolates. So she went to this village and she got about 12 kids. And she said to them, I've got this box of chocolate, and there are lots and lots of beautiful chocolates. And she showed them and presented it to them, and they're all very excited about chocolates. I don't know whether some of them haven't been eating chocolates before, but she said to them, I'm going to have a race. And she goes ahead of them about 100 meters. And she said to them, I'll put the chocolate 100 meters from where you were. And they all lined up. And she said, whoever gets to the chocolate first will take that chocolate and then enjoy it. So she goes 100 meters ahead of them, places the chocolate on the ground, and then says to the children, ready, set, go. You know what the kids did? They all held hands together and they ran together to the chocolate and got there together and opened the chocolate and shared the chocolate among them together. And the lady was quite gobsmacked by that. And she said to them, why did you do that? And they said to her, it's not fair that one of us will get to the chocolate first and he or she will have the chocolate and the other 11 will be unhappy and he or she will be happy. And they said, that's really the essence of Ubuntu, our shared humanity. The fact that what affects you affects me, and what affects me affects you. So we have a shared destiny. We are tied by a single garment of destiny, and we share our common humanity. So Ubuntu doesn't say don't flourish. It doesn't say don't be wealthy or go ahead and all of that. It does say that, but it says when you do, don't forget that we belong to each other. It's really the message of the last 3 years, the message of the pandemic, something that started somewhere in China, has spread throughout the whole world. And 3 years later, we're still suffering. I remember when Omicron started in Southern Africa, within 3 days, there were 4 or 5 cases in New South Wales. Isn't that a lesson that we are all connected? Even the way we spread the disease, the way we catch it, is by a shared interconnectedness. So that's really the message, I think, of the virus, is that we ought to remember that we belong to this, connection. We are, we belong to each other and we share a common humanity. So I guess that's really what relationship is about, and that's really what we see in our families, that essence of the shared humanity, that what affects me affects you. That when I flourish, when our children flourish, when one child at Lindisfarne flourishes, the whole community flourishes. But when one child at Lindisfarne is diminished, even if my children are doing well, in a sense, every child at Lindisfarne, all of us at Lindisfarne are diminished. So that's really what Ubuntu is, and that's the essence of our shared humanity. So it's an invitation for us to not to forget that we belong to each other, that what affects you directly affects me, indirectly. What affects you directly affects me indirectly, and what affects me indirectly affects you directly. So thank you, Carlos. That's really the essence of what Ubuntu is about, and that's precisely what you're trying to illustrate with your diagrams.
What a beauty. What a beautiful concept, no? That in a generational history in Africa, they have the concept of Ubuntu, that in our language is system thinking. So one person is affected, cannot not affect others. So in the way that Constantine mentioned about COVID, no, we also mention about how a good concept, a good love can also spread. The problem with the brain, and we're going to look at the brain in another session, is that whatever happened in a system, and we're going to repeat things many times to be able to catch it, to record it, to remember, whatever happened in our system that is negative, it creates fear. And that fear sticks like Velcro. But everything that is good, it slips like Teflon. And this is what happened in the brain. So it's important for us to know that when we are looking at our picture, when we are responding to something, what usually triggers first, and it is happening in 12 milliseconds, is the fear. So when we are relating to someone and we are flourishing, we are helping, in that case, the child to be the best of themselves, and we are flowing with the person, we are communicating, we are sharing. What we are doing there, we are celebrating the virtues of that relationship. But when we cannot do that, it's because fear taints everything. So fear is the first response of the brain, as I mentioned before, in 12 milliseconds. When something happened, our reptilian brain and our limbic brain respond through the amygdala with fear. So what to do? So we are in a relationship in the system that naturally the majority of our time is based on fear. So what to do there? So the idea is to start knowing each other better and how to be aware first of our fear. I mentioned before also about the virtues. So how can I be aware of my fear and from that place go to a space of wonder? How would you like to be? What is the life that I would like to enjoy? What are the gifts? What are the gifts, the virtues and desires and wishes that I would like to feed? That tension between fear and virtues will be permanent in our mind. So how to do that? So I'd like to invite you to think, because this is about children and education, I'd love you to think of one virtue or a gift or a desire that your child has, a wish that you celebrate. I'll give you for a second, a minute, a few seconds for you to think. One virtue that you see, one gift that you see in your child, one desire that is life-giving, one wish that is life-giving that you see in your child. You might like to write it down. And to name it in your heart and in your mind. And the question here is, how many times have I shared that with my child, that I value that? So how to be able to deal with this internal world that I have with my picture is first to have a self-awareness, to have an insight and to know that the picture I have is mine, is my perception that may be totally different, to this likely to be totally different, to the perception of my child, the perception of my partner, the other parent or carer, and how to create a space, how to pause in that intensity of our feelings and to be able to open a communication, and how to become aware of the other, an Ubuntu. I don't know if it's right to say Ubunting, to make Ubuntu as a verb. How we can do that, to see what is the communication, how are you? To ask the parent, what is your picture? What is your desire? What is your fear? And how to start communications like that. How many times we ask the child to see, how are you? In a way, there is no how are you, but how are you? In a way that I can contain the child, that can come into there and to say, I'm not feeling well. I tell you a story. Not long ago, we were teaching a method of communication in a big church in Melbourne. And we say to the team that we're teaching, don't use this technique until you learn how to use it. And in this technique was very simple. You need to identify the best of you and not the best of you in a picture way. That is a method we call the play of life. So that father didn't follow our direction, and he was a very Christian family, very organized, very typical church-going and prototype of a good family. So they did this in the family. They said, before having lunch, before having dinner, we are going to play. And we're going to represent the best and not the best of myself. Everybody did it. And then they put the son, who was doing the HSC, the best of him was happy, joyful. And he was, again, playing with figures. The other one, he was in the corner, all covered with things. And they said to him, what is that? And he said, this is how I feel. They said, what do you mean with that? Yeah, this is how I feel. They didn't know. They were shocked. Because the child said, every time you ask me, how are you? You're expecting for me to tell you how you think that I should be. So that is space of awareness of the other, of how are you? Allow me to first to know myself, as I said before, what is my picture, and to know that it's just my picture, my perception. To pause and have an awareness with the other, how are you? But all of that looks very nice. But in reality, this process is not difficult. Very often, it's at the edge of the impossible. And this is where we are meeting here. We say sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. But there are moments in life that goes to another level. And say, I don't know what to do here. And this is when a rabbi called Abraham Heschel said, we need to change this I don't know into I wonder. How can I do that? And this is a space where spirituality is so important. Where do I go when I'm in a place that I don't know what to do? So in that place, we need to find a place where I feel contained. And I said, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And can I have my partner, someone else to say, or even with our children, I don't know what to do. What can we do together? How can we Ubuntu together? How can we do that together to be able to have a better space? And sometimes seeking help, seeking somebody to chat with us, to pray with us, to be a companion with us, to be a counselor with us, a coach with us, will help us into do that. So, put it all together. Relationships, the question is how we communicate, how we relate. When I relate, I'm not relating to the other person. I'm relating with the picture I have in my mind. I invite you to challenge that, to say, what is this? And to be able to share with that. This is how I perceive you. And when you feel that you are perceived in a way that is so different to what you believe, don't defend. Say, really? Where do you see that? And how do you perceive me too? And this will help us to be able to learn each other how to create an Ubuntu. And the pivotal thing here is, what are the virtues, the gift that I see in the other? There is a passage in the Bible that says, think of everything that is noble, that is trustworthy, something that lifts you up. Why is this there? Because the negative is the one who captures our mind, and we can't go to that place. So Melanie is going to send you next week, or after today, an exercise that is called the Pillars of Life, that help us to only think of the good things of life. So today, I'm finishing with this, with thinking, how am I responding? Do I know how to pause and to communicate? How am I skilled to say, how are you? And to be able to wait for the answer. And also to accept that sometimes I don't know what to do, and that is okay. And in that space is where miracles happened. And this is the space of spirituality. And sometimes to be vulnerable and to accept, to go to the teacher, to the chaplain, to a counselor, to say, I need a little bit of help here, because I don't know. And what a sacred space. So this is what I'd like to finish with this today. Next time, we're going to look at how I respond. A key element and wonderful teaching that I learned before in how we can learn how to respond better, to be able to build myself and others, and to stop draining myself and draining other relationships. So I pause here, and we have a few minutes of thoughts and questions, and here I am to respond to you. I hope that what I presented has been of help.
So feel free to talk openly or pop it in the chat. What does this make you think? Any questions, any challenge, but how do you do that with a teenager? Any questions?
Carlos, I've got a question, probably an observation more than anything. I'm the Deputy Principal, Charlotte. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very, very much for the session thus far. I think one of the things that we often see as educators, and we are speaking as parents of 4 boys, that, you know, when you talk about a system, you're talking about the parents, but you're also talking about multiple children in a family. And I think, you know, when you're having, particularly you may have one child in that family with some problematic behaviours or going through a challenging time, the impact it has on all members of the system, you know, and the family can be quite significant. And we see that a lot in the work we do. Yeah.
I think what you're saying is what it is. The problem is that sometimes we don't know what to do with that. And the person that usually is considered a problem child, and this is one of the biggest mistakes we make, because it's not a problem child, it's a system that is functioning in that way, where each one of the person is part of the system. but it's very hard to think like that because the person says, "Oh, it's not my fault that is happening." It's not a fault in giving. No, and this is what you're saying is essential. This is what we're saying is that we need to learn how to work like this. We don't learn this at home. Like we mentioned before, the children see parents in this tension. Sometimes we don't learn it at home. I think you are in a school that, for what the little I saw, children are being role model, but amazing role modeling, but it's not common at all. And we don't have it in society. So we are learning together. So the question here is how people have one child in that situation. It's not a child, it's an emergent of the system. But because it's not black and white, it's hard to even talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not dualistic thinking. One of the issues is who is right and what is wrong. And we need to change this dualistic thinking. But dualistic thinking is ingrained in humanity. Because the brain, we're going to talk about the brain later another time, needs to be right or wrong. So to go to the I don't know is one of the most difficult things that we can do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I respond a little bit of your comment.
No, you did. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, Catherine?
Carlos, so my name is Kathy Cox. I'm the head of middle school. Thank you so much for your presentation tonight. I was just thinking a bit about that comment you're making about the things that cause tension, which is the difference between intention and our actual actions. And I think as parents and as educators and as children, that's something that I think is a fundamental problem for everybody. How do we move past our intention to how our actions are perceived to try and reduce those tensions?
The first thing is, again, the brain cannot, and we will talk about the brain on another session, the brain cannot handle uncertainty. So whatever we do, we need to build in ourselves a sense of, it's called a sense of knowing. I need to know that what I'm doing is right. So for us to challenge myself is very hard. It's very difficult. So this is why we need groups, we need community, we need to be able to learn how to doubt at myself. That is easy to give a lecture about it, but it's very hard to do it. So again, all of us, the majority of the people, they have the intention in their mind to do something positive. Even the more cruel situations in life, when you see their speeches, now they will say, we want to have a better society. I want to have a Superman, a super society. So their intention, but the way that we act on that sometimes is so far away. But so we need one another to be able to challenge each other.
Can I also add to that, and this is something that next week, I think, is it Kathy? I prefer than Catherine? That we'll discuss next week brain, because we look at the neuroscience. And look, I teach the neuroscience to the teenagers too. Make it really simple so that they get it too. So you can teach it to the kids and they may or may not listen. But the idea is, look, I'm learning this and I'm really sorry if I step on your toes. You know, I don't mean to. Tell me if I step on your toes. And it's like an open, you know, and I'll tell you when you step on mine. It's kind of like that growing together. There's something that I would also recommend you watch. You can watch it with teenagers, preferably than kids. I'll share my screen. It's on Netflix. It's season 2 of The Mind Explained. And it's 20 minutes. Sorry, this is Carlos's thing. This is 20 minutes called The Teenage Brain. It's literally 20 minutes and it's done really well. And if you watch it either this week or next week, if you watch it this week and then you see Carlos's presentation on the brain, it will kind of validate it and add. But essentially that little video, when I watched it, I was watching it going, I wish all the parents of my clients watch.
I wish my father knew that when
Yes.
I was a teenager. You can
Pretty
say
much.
that, man.
Pretty much, yeah. At the end of the day, kids, teenagers, from what I know, I'm not a parent. I'm just an auntie to very little kids, but I'm also, coach to teenagers. What I've learned to gain the trust of kids, teenagers, is to let them see that you're human, to admit when you make mistakes, to opening up to them, to sharing your stories. A lot of my teenagers don't know their parents' stories of when they were teenagers. Is to meet them on the same level. You don't have to be up here all the time. Yes, sometimes they need to respect you, but there's moments where you can meet in the middle. That's what I will say with regards to intention, and I hope that that's helpful.
Oh, great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, the intention and the action. How many times a parent may say it or may even think about it, because how can my partner, the mother or the father, think like that? You're a stupid idiot. May not say it, but is there. And because we are connecting what we are doing, and we need to learn how to connect to our soul, our heart. What is our desire? And again, the word fear is key. What is my fear? And for some people, it takes ages to understand the fear. Because I don't have any. Oh, let's resolve it. But to be able to do that.
I think we have time for one more question.
Anyone who would like to?
And maybe not even a question, but a pondering. Katriana? Oh, sorry, I thought you put up your hand.
There's a question in the chat as well from Katriana.
Yes, I shall put it in the chat.
I just saw it, yes. Hello.
Yes.
Do you mind if I read it out loud, Katriana? Cool. In this busy world, how do we impress on the parents the importance of their role in the partnership with us as teachers of modeling work ethic and self-regulation, especially when at times parents don't often have those skills?
Yeah, I think the relationship, we have a special program it's called Meet the Parents. And it's the relationship, the relationship between parents and teacher that is so important. That very often they are working not in sometimes antagonism, but sometimes without a connection. Again, they're not working as a system. So we have a special program for bullying, actually. And in that bullying is how the teacher could relate to the parent or the bullied and the bully, and how to do that. But this is essential. You have to learn how to do that. Again, we don't have a culture. And I hear, so my wife is a literacy specialist, and he used to work a lot with at home with remedial. And so a lot of her students have a part of dyslexia, have autism, and many other situations. And sometimes I'm around, and I'm hearing the parents criticizing the teacher. No, highly. And then I'm thinking, that's a shame because there is no connection. No, but this is crucial in how the parent could find ways to engage and to be with, a companion with the parents. This is something we can talk about in another way, but it's essential because that creates the Ubuntu, no? That creates the system thinking.
Yeah, as Katrina says, sometimes they feel that because they send their child to a private school, that they're, yes. And look, Katriana, I get that as well as a counselor coach with them. It's like you deal with it. And then they complain that their child still has severe depression because I can't, if they go home. And I always say, if the nest is thorny, if they're getting jabbed when they go back to the nest, well, there's not much we can do. So all we can do is make sure that when they leave that nest, they come to that little external place, that's comfort. So school is comfort. that counseling is comfort. That's all we can do.
So this presentation was focused on parents, no? Even though so welcome the teachers. So I'm saying to the parents, because this is the focus of this chat, is have time to sit with the teacher and say, what do you think? And I hope the teacher will ask you, what do you think? So that is the question, how are you? And be honest. So some Teju talks about here, it's a gift to show our vulnerabilities. Not be open. Hopefully you can trust the teacher. Said, I don't know what to do. Use the teacher as a colleague, as a partner in the education, not as an antagonist, a competition. No? And then we can have another chat with the teachers in how to be able to engage the parents better. But I hope the parents can really go to a space to say, and to be able to believe that the role we are doing as parents, I've done it now, but let's put it in personal, it's very hard. One person said, for me to have adolescents was like being in the Titanic, in the front of the Titanic, asking for having a scotch and saying, I said, I asked for ice, but not for so much ice. No, it's like, I know that difficulty will come, but I didn't expect that was so big. So again, not be alone. And the space of don't know is sacred. It's a sacred space. And this is the space that we can learn. And this is what I like to share. I don't know if anyone else would like to say anything else.
Mine is not a question, but I just want to share with you briefly. I picked up Brené Brown's latest publication, Atlas of the Heart, and I had about 10 minutes this afternoon just to read a page or two. And this is what she shared in this beautiful, beautiful book. She said, as a parent, my goal is to help my children believe in and belong to themselves, and to know that no matter what, they always belong at home, that we see them and love them for who they are. The pressure to fit in is real and unrelenting. But if we can create that sense of inextricable connection, it's a fierce protector as they navigate belonging. Be here, be you, belong. That's really powerful, isn't it? That, the sense that our role as parents is to help our children believe in and belong to themselves. Because if they don't belong at home and in themselves, they cannot belong at school, they cannot belong anywhere. I think that's part of that responsibility that I think we all have. And this is why we're doing this webinars, is to find ways that we can help our children belong to themselves and be themselves and feel at home in their own belonging.
Beautiful. And to belong, we need to build ourselves. And one of the things I'd like to finish today, for us to think, as I did before, one virtue of my student, of my children, and how much do I have that in mind? And in our thought, the action, not the intention, the action, what I'm doing, feeds that virtue or drain that virtue. This is what I'd like to finish today. And if somebody would like to write there, the virtue that you see in your children will be a gift for us to hear that. What is the gift?
You can type it in the chat box so you can just share it. And
that
means you're also putting it out there.
So, and we share that. And that becomes, as we did before, with the prayer, embracing, the children will have again. So I think I'd like to offer any time that as part of this, that for me is a ministry and sharing. If anyone would like to have another chat, I'm open to have a short chat with anyone who would like to do. But again, once more, not knowing is a space of growth and a sacred space that we can grow in together. Ubuntu. So, Constantine, I'd like for you, if you can close this chat today, and if anyone again would like to be in touch with us, just please be with us. Here we are to support you. I'm in Kingscliff, so we are local, and Melanie's in Sydney.
Sorry, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Melanie, for driving the technology. And Mrs. Cornell and Mrs. Lush and all the staff who are here, and of course, parents. I can't see all of you, but Mrs. Cox, I think Kathy was there as well. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being here and supporting these webinars. And as we conclude, let's again carry in our hearts and minds. As I said earlier, prayer is really sending positive vibes and thoughts. Whatever we do at Lindisfarne is for the flourishing of our students. So let's, as we close, think about those students who are in systems that are not life-giving, that are in systems that are stopping them from flourishing. Let us pray that, let us send them good thoughts and good vibes, that perhaps through this series and the understanding of vulnerability and asking those questions, how are you, and listening and sharing stories, the systems might shift, and there'll be more connection and more belonging and more Ubuntu. I am because we are, and because we are, I am. So let us send positive thoughts, good vibes to all our families, each and every one of them, over 1,000, I think, families at Lindisfarne. Pray for their well-being, pray for the flourishing of our children, pray for our staff, pray for our students, of course, and each and every member of this beautiful Lindisfarne community, that God will bless us this new journey, new opening of a semester, that in our flourishing, that I don't have to lose for you to win. I don't have to win so that you can lose. That in our systems, we see that when I win, you also can win. When I flourish, you flourish. That whatever we do at Lindisfarne will be for the flourishing and for the betterment of our students and their families. And also for the betterment of Australia, because the state of Australia begins in our classrooms. So let us pray that this will be for the good of our country, for the good of our world, as well as for the good of our families and students. And all of this we pray in the name of Jesus, the one who came into a family. Isn't that interesting that Jesus was born in a family? He didn't come in a vacuum. He has a mother, he had a father, a foster father. Again, that's really God saying that family is important, is everything. So let's pray for families. Ask Jesus to bless our families. And we make this prayer in his mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Wow, what a richness you have in this wonderful Constantine in the school. Beautiful. Thank you very much. And also, to be selfish, I would like to see if there is any comment in how we could do this better. Contact us, and we really like to see you next week. I would like to invite other people. We are going to share this. And thank you very much. And have a nice new term of the school. And enjoy. All the best and many blessings. Thank you, Kate, again for your work, Catriona, Charlotte, and all the team at Lindisfarne. Thank you very much.
Hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Many blessings.
Thank you, Carlos.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Carlos, thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.